All right, let's talk about the two tools you probably use every single day, maybe without even giving them a second thought: your keyboard and your mouse. These things are the absolute bedrock, the bridge between you and your entire digital life.
But have you ever just stopped and wondered about the most basic thing? You have an idea, a sentence, a command in your head. How does that actually jump from your brain into the machine sitting on your desk?
Well, the answer all comes down to one thing: input devices. You can think of them as translators. They are that essential connection turning our physical movements, like a tap or a push, into digital commands the computer understands. They're the bridge between us and the machine.
Okay, so let's dive in, starting with the undisputed champion of input devices, the keyboard. This is really your main tool for speaking directly to your computer. I mean, it is the most common input device on the entire planet, and the skill of using it well, what we call keyboarding, is a total game changer for getting things done. The better you are at it, the faster your ideas can come to life.
So what actually happens in that split second when you press a key? It's not magic, but it's a pretty cool four-step dance. First, a little controller inside the keyboard detects that press. Then, it zaps a unique code, not for the letter A, but for that key's position to the computer's brain, the CPU. The CPU then pokes the operating system, and finally, the OS figures out what character to pop up on your screen. And if you hold the key down, that controller just sends the code again and again. But typing is really only half the story. To navigate the visual world of modern computers, we need a different kind of tool. So let's talk about the keyboard's essential partner, the mouse. Just think about it. Pretty much every single modern computer uses a mouse or some version of one. Its whole job is to translate the movement of your hand into the movement of that little pointer on the screen, letting you point at, click on, and move things around directly.
Now, the technology behind the mouse has come a long, long way. The old-school mechanical mice had this heavy rubber ball inside that would roll around. The biggest problem? That ball was a dust magnet, picking up all sorts of gunk, which meant you had to clean it constantly. The modern optical mouse solved this brilliantly. It just uses the tiny light, and it tracks the reflection off your desk to see how it's moving. It's way more accurate and needs basically zero maintenance.
Using a mouse really just boils down to 5 basic moves. First, you've got pointing, just hovering the cursor over something. A simple click selects it. To move an icon or a file, you drag and drop, which is just clicking, holding, and letting go. And here's a little pro tip: right-clicking almost always opens up a secret menu full of useful shortcuts. And finally, you've got the scroll wheel for flying up and down pages.
So why did this little device become so essential? Well, it comes down to a few huge advantages. It makes putting your cursor exactly where you want it incredibly fast and just intuitive. It makes navigating menus super easy, and for the first time, it gave regular people the power to draw and create things visually right on the screen.
Of course, the classic mouse isn't the only game in town. A trackball is kind of like an upside-down mouse. You roll the ball with your fingers instead of moving the whole device, which is great if you don't have a lot of desk space. Then you have the trackpad, that touch-sensitive square on every laptop. And finally, the track point is that little joystick you sometimes see tucked into the middle of a keyboard, perfect for moving the cursor without taking your hands off the keys.
But there's a flip side to all this clicking and typing. As amazing as these tools are, if we're not careful, they can start to fight back. There's a hidden cost.
And that brings us to something really serious: repetitive strain injury, or RSI. This isn't something that happens from one bad move. It's an injury that builds up from making the same, small, wrong motions over and over again, day after day, and it can lead to some real pain, numbness, and weakness.
One of the most well-known kinds of RSI is carpal tunnel syndrome. See, inside your wrist, there's a narrow little path called the carpal tunnel, and it's packed with nerves and tendons. When you spend years typing with your wrists at a bad angle, those tendons can swell up and pinch the nerves, and that can be incredibly painful.
So, how do we stop this from happening? How can we use our tools in a way that's safe and smart? Well, the answer lies in the science of ergonomics.
Ergonomics is basically the study of how we interact with the tools and the spaces around us. The whole point is to design things to fit the person, not force the person to fit the thing. It's all about improving safety and comfort.
This all starts with your gear. Your foundation should be a good office chair, one you can adjust that gives you solid support for your lower back. Next, a desk with a keyboard tray can be a lifesaver, helping to keep your wrists in a nice neutral position. And this one is huge. Put your monitor directly at eye level. That simple change can prevent years of neck pain.
But having great equipment is only half the battle. Your habits are just as important. Really try to sit up straight. A padded wrist support can help you keep from bending your wrists at weird angles. And honestly, the most important tip of all? Take frequent breaks. Just getting up to stretch for 30 seconds every so often can make a world of difference.
Which brings us to our final and most critical question. Take a look around you right now. Your desk, your chair, your keyboard, how you're sitting. Is your workspace really designed for you, or are you forcing yourself to fit into it? Making just a few small changes today could make all the difference for your health and comfort tomorrow.